Is my audio cracking up with the screencast? Yes or no? Am I cracking up? No? Wow! Like every time I do it in the past, it's like, okay, anyway, so it's good. Okay, so what was I saying again? Okay, let me just give a quick overview so whoever watches it later will have an understanding what we're doing. So these are the two geometric mean theorems that we're going to talk about. The first one teaches you how to find the altitude of a right triangle, and in this case, CD is the altitude, and it's equal to the geometric mean, so I put the square root right there, of two segments of the hypotenuse, which are AD and DB. Okay, now the disadvantage of memorizing it this way is if the numbers or the letters change, you might get thrown off, right? So you might not be able to set up the formula. So you have to find a pattern that makes sense to you. And I'm going to share with you like an anecdote that a student shared with me in the past. She said, Miss, I'm going to think of it as the letter T. So she said, it looks like a letter T. This is the altitude, right? It has a right angle over there and it's connected to the hypotenuse. So she calls that's the hypotenuse, and I mean the altitude, my bad. And she calls this one H or hype 1 and hype 2. So she said this is like the first portion of my hypotenuse and this is the second portion of my hypotenuse. Okay. So based on what she wrote down, we can actually rewrite this formula as altitude is equal to the square root of hype 1 times hype 2. Now, somebody from my period 5 class yesterday wrote altitude is equal to the square root of seg 1, which is segment 1, yeah, and then seg 2 or segment 2. So I want you to find ways that you can memorize the pattern, yeah, in a way that makes most sense to you. So don't memorize it this way because if I change my letters, it won't work, right? And if you forget how to set it up, then yeah, you won't be able to solve for it. Okay, so this is like a T pattern, right? Somebody even said, Miss, I'm gonna memorize it as square root of, T1 times T2 because she's calling this T1 and this is T2. And why T? I said, well, miss, it looks like a letter T. Okay, whatever works for you. Okay, so give it some thought, figure out what works best for you. So even when you go to higher math and the triangle looks different, you still would be able to compute for the altitude. Okay. So why is this a step necessary? Because if you're looking for this part of the triangle, you can't get it without the altitude, right? So see, these are two smaller triangles, triangle 1, triangle 2. To find this, you need at least another side. And same is true for here. If you want to solve this right triangle, you have to get at least two sides. So if you have the hypotenuse here and the altitude, you'll be able to find this missing portion. Okay, that's the first one. Let's look at the second one. The second one is used when you're looking for the leg. So each leg, so that means there's two legs, right? This is leg and this is another leg. Okay, your original triangle is not isosceles right triangle, but it's just using the leg here in a different way. So the shorter leg and the longer leg, okay? Each leg of the original is the geometric mean of the hypotenuse and the segment adjacent to the leg. What? What does that mean? Okay, so let's break it down. Yeah? Break it down, yo. Alright, one leg at a time. Here we go. Let's do this leg over here. So leg AC is equal to the geometric mean again. So if you see geometric mean, square root. Of what? Of the hypotenuse. What is the hypotenuse? Since this is your right angle, your hypotenuse is AB. Okay? Of AB times the segment adjacent to the leg. So when we say segment adjacent to the leg, It's the portion of the hypotenuse that's next to the leg we're looking for. So that means it's AB. So what's the pattern? Leg is equal to the geometric mean of the hypotenuse and the leg adjacent, or the segment adjacent to the leg. Alternately, if you want to find BC, it's equal to the square root of the hypotenuse again, which is AB, times the portion of AB that's adjacent to CB. So it's going to be DB, right? So DB. Okay, so when do we use this formula again? We use this formula when we're looking for a leg of any of these two smaller triangles. Okay, but then again, following my idea here earlier, memorize the formula in a way that makes sense to you, using words and not letters. So, okay, here are the suggestions that I've heard in the past and yesterday. What is this again? DB. Okay. Somebody wrote down leg is equal to the square root of hypotenuse times adjacent. That, I think, makes sense. So this is the leg, this is the hypotenuse of the entire big triangle, and this is the adjacent leg. Okay. Yep. Somebody wrote it as leg is equal to square root of hypotenuse times seg. So hypotenuse is the whole thing, and then segment is the portion next to it. I like this better than segment. Segment, yeah, segment. I like this better than the segment because it kind of reminds you that you have to use the adjacent, right? The adjacent um, segment of the hypotenuse. Because there's two segments, the longer segment, the shorter segment. So I kind of like the use of adjacent better. Okay. So what I'm going to show you next is how to use these in actual triangles, okay? So I'm going to clear these ink. You memorize it however you want to memorize it. Just make sure you're memorizing it correctly, okay? Use words that make most sense to you. Okay, so how do you know which formula to use? So tell me in the chat pod, are you going to use the altitude formula here or the leg formula? So the first one is you're going to use the altitude formula. Why? Because x is inside, so it's an altitude. And however you wanna memorize the altitude, okay? So what's the formula for the altitude again? It's the geometric mean of the two segments, which you may call hype 1 times hype 2 or seg 1 times seg 2. That's up to you. So what's the final answer here? The letter on altitude is x, okay? And then what's hype 1? These can be interchanged, 3 times 6 or 6 times 3, it doesn't matter. So 6 times 3, right? Which is equal to root of 18. And how do we simplify root of 18? We broke it down into 9 times 2, yeah? So what's the square root of 9? It's 3. And then 2 is not a perfect square, so we just copy it down. There you go. Alright, so that's the calculator ready form. There you go, 3 radical 2. Alright, so now in the second picture, we're not looking for this altitude. We're looking for y, which is an outer leg, right? So we use the leg formula, which is the square root again of the hypotenuse times the adjacent segment, however you want to call it. Okay, so the variable on the leg is y, equals square root of, look, your hypotenuse, it's going to be the whole thing. So you have to add them together, yeah? So 7 times the adjacent segment to the leg. So the adjacent is this portion. It's the one right next to the leg we're looking for. So times 2, which will be 14 and cannot be simplified. So we're just going to put radical 14. And that's the calculator ready form. Yeah. All right. Okay, so before we move on to Schoology, I know that you already have a list of the formulas we have for this chapter so far, right? I listed them down last time also. So if you could please add these two formulas to your list, that would be great. Because in our Schoology today for solving right triangles, why did I add two? Why did I add two? Here? Which one? I don't get you. The second problem. I didn't add this one because that's the adjacent leg to the that's the adjacent segment to the leg that we're looking for. The formula is you multiply the hypotenuse and the leg, right? That's adjacent to what you're solving for. So 7 times 2, which is 14 together. So that's y is equal to radical 14. So the pattern is you multiply the hypotenuse times the segment of the hypotenuse that's adjacent to the leg. Yep. Uh-huh. Okay, so today we learned two additional formulas. If you could write them down to the list that we had last time, that would be great. So when we go to Schoology, you have a reference of all your formulas. Okay, let's go to Schoology right now. What period am I in? Period 6. Yeah, I just copied this one like today. So refresh your browser if it doesn't appear there. Did I put the date? My bad. The date might not be there. It's right here. So edit. Um, what's the date today? 16. I'm sure it's not out of 100. Okay, so let me edit the settings. Open 9.4 to 9.5, 29. Right triangles. Okay. All right, so this is what we're going to do today. So have your formulas accessible, okay? The first thing that you have to do for every, yeah, and if you finish early, if you don't need my help, keep going. And just use the extra time to do any makeup work because the grades are already open. Okay. All right, so the first thing that you have to do for every example, for every item, is to identify the formula that you are going to use. Okay, how do you know? You have to look at the given information. For example, this is a regular right triangle. No angles inside, it's just a generic right triangle. So that means you can use your Pythagorean theorem. Does that make sense? So if it's a generic right triangle, use Pythagorean. Uh-huh. Okay, so can you tell me what the answer is for number 1? How do you set up your Pythagorean theorem? Always put the hypotenuse on the C. 13. Okay, very good. 13, because that's a Pythagorean triple, right? 5, 12, 13. Do you have questions on how to set it up? If you don't ask me how to show that, I won't show question by question. So I'm going to go with your pace. If you need me, you tell me. If you don't say anything, I'll just keep going. Yep. So is number one clear? DM me if you don't want to show anybody, everybody, you know. Is there the option of breakout room? Okay. Can I have like a number of students who would like to be in a breakout room? So I'm not forcing you to like have a breakout room, you know? Can you explain it again? Okay, I will. All right. So yeah, let me know if you want to work in the breakout room. Yeah. So DM me. If you don't want to, then that's okay. All right. So use your Pythagorean theorem, right? Your C is always across the 90 degree. So that's going to be x squared is equal to your A and B. It doesn't matter what you put in them. Could be the 5, could be the 12. Can you take it from there? Okay. Can you pick it up from there? You sure? So you square, square, and then you add whatever the answers are, and then you get the square root. Can I leave it like that? Can you explain number 5? I don't know what that means. Cool. So is number 1 okay now? I'm going to clear the ink. Yes? Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to jump to number 5. Write your answer in simplest form. Find AB. Okay, so if it has, that's 48, right? 48 or 45? 45. Okay. All right. So for number 5, it's an isosceles right triangle. It has a 45 degree triangle. So remember, the always thing you gotta ask yourself, what kind of triangle do I see? Because normally, once you've answered that, that gives you the formula that you need. So what's the formula for 45 90 triangle? Hypotenuse is radical 2 times the leg. Now your BC is 12 radical 2. So this is BC. Now you need to find AB, which is x, which is the hypotenuse. So AB is equal to radical 2 times the leg. But what is the leg? It's 12 radical 2. Can you take it from there? The answer is pretty obvious right there. Can you take it from there? What's your answer to number 5? 24. Very good. Okay. Questions for 5? All right. Okay, I'll just wait for your next questions in the chat pod. Chris, I sent you a message. Can you, yeah, can you reply to me? Thank you. Would 6 be 48? Okay, would 6 be 48? Okay, it doesn't have any angle, so you have to use Pythagorean theorem for this one. AC is 24 root 2. Can we do breakout rooms? Okay, so far I have 2. I'm going to... Okay, so let participants choose the room. Okay, I'm going to open I'll open 2. Okay, if you don't go to the breakout room, stay with me. So James, can you go to number 1, room number 1, and then whoever wants to work with James will go to room number 1. Anybody who would like to start on room number 2? Otherwise, just to stay with me in the main room. Okay. All right. I don't know either. So Marcelo, am I doing number 6 or you're in the breakout room already? Are you still here? Should I still do 6? Anyway, if you are in the main room, if you're confused with number 6, I know how it looks like, but it's not there. Mm, okay, anyway. Alright, if you are in the main room, I'm doing number 6. So AC is 24 radical 2, and BC is 24 radical 2 as well. Okay, so what does that tell you? You can either use Pythagorean theorem because it works for all, but if you see that both are equal, then that means it's an isosceles right triangle. So isosceles right triangle means 45, 45, 90, and that will make it like a lot easier. Uh-huh. So that means you're gonna use hypotenuse is radical 2 times the leg. Okay. Now the hypotenuse is what we're looking for. Find AB, right? So AB is equal to, can I be moved to room 1? Well, aren't you in room 1? Oh, okay. So AB is radical 2 times the leg, but the leg here is 24 radical 2. So AB is equal to, when you multiply radical 2 times radical 2, that will actually be radical 4, right? But the radical of 4 is actually 2. So the shortcut is, if you see the same radical, and they go in pairs, just remove the radical sign. That's a shortcut. So 24 and this one will just become 2. So the final answer here will be 48. There you go. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Anybody else from the main room who has questions? Next question, please. But if you already know what you're doing, don't wait for me. Just keep going. And if you encounter a roadblock, just let me know. Okay. After 6, I'm just going to wait for your message in the chat. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna come back in a little bit. I'm just gonna like eavesdrop a little bit in room number 1, okay? I'll be right back. You guys need any help here or you're fine? You're good? Okay. I don't know if somebody's sharing a screen, but is screen sharing enabled or you don't need it? Okay, okay. All right, just message me in the main room, okay? All right. Okay, I'm gonna leave this room. Okay, I'm back, everybody, in the main room. What's your next question, please, if you have any? If not, that's okay. I'm waiting. I'm just like, you know, waiting for any of your questions in the chat pod. Mhm. Can you explain number 7? Sure. All right, number 7. I'm gonna scroll down to that. Clear ink. Oops. All right, in the diagram, AC is X and BC is X. And then this is 12 radical 2. So the first thing we're going to ask ourselves is, what kind of triangle is it? So if two legs are the same, it's the isosceles right triangle. So it's 45, 45, 90. Yep. And there's only one formula for 45, 45, 90. Height is radical 2 times the leg. So that means your hypotenuse is the one across 90 degrees, so 12 root 2 equals root 2 times the leg, which is x. So this is root 2 times x. Can you take it from there? The answer is kind of pretty obvious. Like, you just divide both sides here by radical 2. Does that make sense? Now divide and then divide. And then you get the answer already. Got it? Cool. Okay. Yeah, just message in the chat pod if you have any questions. Can I play some music? Is my music too loud? So I'll lower it down. Any other questions you might have? Just let me know in the chat pod. You can DM me if you don't want everybody to see. How are you guys? Are you busy preparing for the return to school? How long you here is returning to school? If you are returning, make sure you schedule your COVID test as early as today because space is running out for real. I'm tired of my siblings, so maybe, you know what, it's Adelaide, I'm also tired of mine, you know. Like, I know I can teach like more peacefully at school because, oh my God, my two kids are, especially during this time of the day, but no, I can't go back. I'm not returning to school. Yeah, because I have hypertension. And remember, I told you about my blood sugar spiking up. Yeah, my husband though is going back to school. Yeah. So it's not that I'm afraid because I'm already vaccinated, but I wasn't cleared by my doctor because of my, yeah. So I'm like in the BMI for obesity category, like I'm in the, not even like at the beginning, like my BMI is above 40, I think. So yeah, my doctor said I'm at risk. I know. So I'm stuck with my kids. Too bad, huh? Yeah. You guys have other questions? How's Jocelyn as a sister? Oh my god, I can't imagine. Really? I agree with you. Yeah. She's like firm. Like she's mm-mm, you know? Yes. Really? Oh come on. Oh, we're talking behind her back. Yeah. Oh my god, I miss her. I love her. Tell her that. Yeah. I could see like myself in her when I was when I was her age. I'm like, dude, you're not doing your work and then you're gonna copy from my notes? Heck no. It's like that. That's why I didn't have a lot of friends. They didn't like me because I didn't make anybody copy. Yep. Yeah, I'm like, go away, leave me alone. You know, you were drawing when teacher was teaching, and then now you're gonna copy from me? Boo you. Yeah, I know. So when I help my friends, I mean, those were I had friends who like were really also not good in math. Yes, I we stayed like after school. I tutored them, but you know, I didn't work with people who were not working. I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah, I saw myself in Jocelyn for real. Yeah. You guys have any more questions? Okay, I'll just wait for whatever number you're gonna ask me in the chat. hmm Okay, and I'm gonna give those in the breakout room maybe like 4 minutes left before they come back to the main room. My gosh, I'm so excited. If we're not gonna go back this spring, I at least I would still see you guys in the fall. Oh no, not anymore. Well, I'll see you in the steam hallway. Yep. But my ninth graders this year, I would still have them in geometry next year. Hopefully, I still teach geometry. I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to get the spot for statistics and probability for STEAM. I hope I get at least one class for juniors and seniors. It's a math elective. Yeah, those who are not going into, the calculus route, then at least it would still look good if they have like a math elective on their fourth year. So, when Mrs. A asked me, I'm like, um, I could do AP stats and regular stats if they need my service on that one. Any more questions? The Pedro and Narbonne game today is canceled. Did you hear about that? Because a Narbonne player, I think, got COVID positive. Yep. I was like, oh my, that's just even sports people going to school right now. So if you're going back to campus, mask, face shield, and just touch your stuff. Like keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, water bottle. You have to bring water bottle. They said there will be no working water fountain at school. So bring yourself a gallon of water maybe. Yes. And then I heard in an elementary school, a class is being quarantined as of last week. Yeah, it was like second day back. So so a class is being quarantined because the bus driver did not check the daily pass, and it turned out a student who is already positive, you know, went to school. I know. So now, that's elementary. So if you guys are riding the bus, if your bus driver is not checking your daily pass, you better like protect yourself and say, "Hey, bus driver, can you please make sure everybody who hops on the bus has a daily pass clearance and negative COVID test." Yep. All I know is that Narbonne has gotten into much trouble. Yeah, last year, huh? Yeah, because of their, I think their sports program. So I may be wrong. I heard that some people were like changing the grades so students will remain eligible to play, hmm and get accepted into colleges and wait, I think that was a different one. Yeah, yeah. So just so the players could be eligible to play. I used to go to the elementary right behind it, and we would always have lockdowns because something happened with their school campus. Oh, the elementary behind it is President Avenue. Is that the one? Oh, my husband works there. That's a very nice neighborhood, actually. Oh, when you were elementary, he wasn't there yet. Yeah, he just started like 2 years ago. I'm so glad I left Narbonne because they canceled their sports. Yeah, there was one time that yeah, they canceled their sports, because of that controversy. Yeah, I think I'm very proud of how San Pedro is doing it. I cannot say that we're 100% changing grades proof. But what San Pedro coaches do is that they meet with the teachers and the parents and the student, they express, the need for that student to stay on track and get the grades because, I mean, of course, not everybody is gifted in particular sports. So if a coach like really sees that a student, a valuable student athlete is not progressing academically, like they really sit down with their parents and teachers. Yes. Yeah, no filter. They say, hey, I need this person in my team, but what can he do to stay afloat, to stay eligible? So teachers don't just change the grades, like they do everything they could to help the athlete. So that's one thing I'm proud of. You know, that's the pirate way to do it. Any other questions you might have? Okay, I'm just gonna close the breakout room so they could all come back, and so I'll have time to like um, ask them if they need help or anything. Question 18. How would you go? Okay, so question 18. Let me clear this over here. What's 18? Okay, so in 18, you need to do like a calculator for that one. Yep. So you know how you can press tan 60 times tan 30 at the same time and see which one becomes equal to 1. Yeah, so I don't know if your calculator can do that, but last time I used Decimal Scientific. Yep. So let's say for the first example, tan 60 times tan 30. So we go tan 60 um times, oh, okay, I have to close that in parentheses, times What was the other one? Tan 30. Tan 30. Okay. And then see that the answer here is equal to 1. There you go. Okay. Yep. So use your calculator if you have your calculator. If not, use this decimals link right here. Hey, breakout room peeps. So did you finish? Somebody asked me, the last question I'm answering right now so far is 18. So I just explained that you are in 16. Okay, so I just explained that for number 18, there's multiple answers. It tells you you get 3 points, so you have to pick 3 answers. So the quickest way to do that is you have to take your calculator and like type them in and see if the answer you get is 1. Okay, so that's number 18. Uh-huh. Okay, Chris, I messaged you earlier. Did you see it? You haven't replied to me, or if you replied, I didn't see it. Can you reply to me? Okay. So your answer is yes. Okay, got it. All right. Anybody else who has a question? Were you stuck on 16 or you were getting it? Which ratios have the same value as cosine of phi? Were you stuck on 16? So you have to look at each of the choices. We just weren't fast enough. Okay. So for number 16, yeah, your cosine of p is adjacent, which is 7, over the hypotenuse, which is 7 radical 2. So that's going to be 1 over radical 2, which is the same as radical 2 over 2. So in other words, you have to look at the other choices. We didn't use math for 16. Okay, however you use it. Okay, however you use it. Whatever formula you use. I don't, yeah, as long as it works. So you gotta check each one of these and figure out which one also gives you an answer of radical 2 over 2. And according to Marcelo, it's all of them except tangent of p. So tangent is opposite over 7, so that's going to be 7 over 7. All right. Let's see where you're getting. Uh-huh. Okay. So you have to look at the other choices. This one is also 3 points. So that means there's 3 possible answers. Yep. Okay. All right. Any more questions? Especially the last one. If you could please look at the last one so you could ask me questions while we're here, that would be great. Because the last two, these are multiple responses. Okay. So which questions can you use to find MN? Okay, so there's multiple possibilities, but here you have to pick 2. Yes, you want to look for MN. So let's use sine n. Can you use sine n? N is equal to um, opposite over hypotenuse. So you know letter A is wrong because it doesn't use the x that you need, right? Sine n is not x over 10. Sine n is opposite over hypotenuse. So in other words, you have to figure out which formula was set up correctly. Like cosine n, this is n for 60, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So you know that this is right. So you have to check one by one if the formula is set up correctly, but you need to find one more because it's 2 points. What's 17? What's 17? I don't know until okay. What's 17? I think, oh, you have to find each of these ratios, like tangent r is equal to opposite, which is 3 radical 3, over, okay, hang on. You have to set up each one. 2 are right for 17, yeah. So if you do tan r, you have to try each. So tangent a or r is 60 degrees, is equal to opposite over adjacent, which is 3. Mm-hmm. And then, yep. So is that equal to radical 3 over 2? So this is cancelable. So this is radical 3. You're looking for something that's radical 3 over 2. So you have to check one by one. Uh-huh. Cosine S is cosine is adjacent, right? Which is 3 radical 3 over 6. Now this one is correct because you're going to cancel this and that turns to 2. So you have to find another one that's going to end up radical 3 over 2. Okay. Cosine and sine for number 17, according to one of your classmates. He said he got it. Okay. So just verify. Chris said cosine and sine. Okay, I'm going to end this video.